Hello and welcome back to my coverage of E3 2018. Yes, we are in E3 2018. We've nearly finished now, actually. We're on Nintendo. Yeah, just Nintendo left. Yesterday was PlayStation's E3 conference. I'm going to go through that now. I've got some notes. I'm going to recap it. Going to go through my thoughts and opinions on this conference, which was a little bit... It was a bit of all right, wasn't it? It was pretty good, but I've got some criticisms of it. I've got Bethesda's reactions and Ubisoft's reactions to come, but I thought, let's get PlayStation out. Let's be a little bit more timely. I am trying to be as timely as possible, but I am a failing unprofessional here, so let's get to it. So PlayStation kicked off with The Last of Us Part 2, but they kicked off the conference in a very weird kind of way. They started with Sean Layden in a barn. Basically, he came out and the barn was set up in the same way that the barn in the trailer was set up. There was church pews, and I think it was a bit of a church thing. I don't know what was going on. There was lights hanging overhead. It made more sense when the trailer started, but the trailer didn't actually start for a good while because they had a Banjo Man. Banjo Man came on and played The Last of Us theme tune, and it's a bit weird. That I mean, I know Sony are doing this thing at the minute with the music of their games and stuff, so it kind of makes sense, I suppose. But for the E3 conference kicking off like this, and you've got a 2-minute, 3-minute rendition of the Last of Us theme tune with Banjo Man and his hood up, it's a bit weird. It's a bit weird. I would have preferred to have seen it over the top of the gameplay. Something that Ubisoft actually did in their conference, and there seems to be a theme as well. Bethesda had Andrew WK, what's his name? Andrew WK, that was his name, right? Yeah, the rock guy, he was playing live music for the game, but not for the game, just a performance of the music. It's weird. I don't know why they're doing that this year. It seems to be a running theme. Bit of a weird start. Anyway, when it eventually got into the trailer of The Last of Us Part 2, things began to pick up. We saw Ellie in the theatre, the church, the thing that they remade in real life for the audience. She was in there where there was a dance going on. Some girl comes over, snogs the girl, just like Killers. At first, it started with a kiss, and then it ended with a machete in a guy's face and neck, and there was a lot of blood and violence. Yep, it kind of skipped time. I'm assuming that's what the game's going to be as well, jumping from different time frames. Ellie kisses this girl, and then it cuts to black and cuts to her being chased, yeah, or just killing a bunch of folks. Very, very visceral kind of gameplay, very gory. Looks great. The animations and the way that the enemy AI acted within the gameplay was unreal. Like nothing we'd ever seen before. I don't know how that is going to look in the final product. It almost looked too good to be true, to be honest. But then again, you've got Naughty Dog at the helm of this project, and too good to be true is their shtick. They create things that look insane and unreal, and somehow manage to pull it off. So got all the confidence in the world there for them. And to be fair, it was a good lengthy trailer. We got a good feel of what The Last of Us Part 2 is going to play like. It would appear that you are playing as Ellie. They did mention in the trailer Ellie's old man. Whether that's referring to Joel, who knows? It'd be interesting to see where it goes. There was no release date set for it or anything like that. No other confirmation of when it's going to be coming out. Just that it's on its way. It looks very advanced for this generation, though. Very, very advanced. If they do come around to announcing a next-gen project next year at E3, the new PS5 or whatever it'll be, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a launch title for it. Would kind of make sense. Depends whether or not they're ready to move on to next-gen yet. They are developing for it, but whether it'll be within the next 18 months or so, which is when this game is going to probably be coming out, who knows. Maybe it'd be like what they did with the Last of Us 1, where it was a kind of not a crossover, but they released the PS4 version pretty soon after the PS3 version. After The Last of Us Part 2 trailer finished, they went, oh god, it went a bit fucking weird for Sony and PlayStation. I don't know what they were thinking, really. I mean, I like the idea of them having the audience in the setting of the game. I think that's a pretty cool idea, and setting it up to look like the game. But then after that, rather than just carry on the conference in that room, which would have been fine, I think, they decided to move everyone to a proper arena type venue, a proper theatre type venue with a giant curved screen. I don't know why they did that. I don't think it was necessary, especially since all they were doing were just showing trailers. Nobody after this fact came on stage to do anything. So that was a bit awkward because what they had to do is they had to cut away from the start of the conference, the start of the showcase, and go to sort of an interview setup where they had Ryan Clements and some other guy who I don't recognise interviewing Sean Layden and some other people that came in and out. They showed Black Ops 4. They showed that Black Ops 4 has got some new maps. Not new maps, some old maps from the old games coming in. Like anybody gives a shit about that. And all the stuff that they've been releasing leading up to the E3, you know, the daily little doses of like the Tetris game and that twin mirror game. They crammed all them together in kind of a sizzle reel and showed that off. A little bit pointless. It was very kind of pre-show material. I don't know why they went Last of Us Part 2, pre-show, and then moved on to the rest of the showcase. It was very weird from a pacing standpoint and really kind of wound me up. I'd woken up at 2 a.m. for this shit, and now I'm watching an awkward interview with Sean Layden. I mean, I can't understand who thought that would be a good idea. Just leave it in the Last of Us set. That was fine. That's a cool little gimmick. A cool little gimmick that you probably spent a lot of money setting up that you used for 10 minutes and then subsequently pissed off a load of people there for moving them and people watching at home online. Silly really, PlayStation, to be honest. But oh well, what are you going to do about it? You know, the Sony will do whatever they want to do. Something I will get back to at the end of this with my final thoughts. I think Sony are being a little bit cocksure of themselves, but I'll leave that for now, because after this, when they finally moved all those people into a proper theatre type deal, they moved on swiftly to Ghost of Tsushima, the Sucker Punch game, the guys who made Infamous, their new game, their samurai game. It's they had Pipe Man, yeah, they had a guy playing a fucking pipe. Just after the banjo dude, I'm like, for fuck's sake, man, another 3 minutes of Chinese music. I was like, oh god, come on, show me the game. So we had to watch that for a little bit. It's like the worst fucking festival setup ever, but oh well. We watched that for a little bit, Pipe Man finished, and we eventually moved on to the Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima, that's going to be a mouthful to say when it comes out over and over again. Yeah, it looked really, really pretty, really beautiful stuff. Like when the main character was riding through the grass, very like nice animation on the grass, nice weather effects, looked stunning, fucking stunning from a visual standpoint. It seems that the story seems to be revolving around the Mongol period in, I'm assuming, Japan. I think it's Japan. I think Tsushima, it was Japan from last year. But yeah, it was the aftermath of a Mongol invasion, and the Mongolian invasion was a very violent time in history, led by Genghis Khan. And if it follows that, it's going to make for a very, very fucking interesting storyline, and I'm 100% behind that. The one thing I'm not 100% behind is the gameplay they showed. The gameplay they showed looked a little bog standard, third-person bog standard action-adventure kind of lark, like third-person melee, very Arkham Asylum with the counter-attacks and the things that were in there. Maybe it will improve, maybe it will be better when the full game is there and we can actually play it, but from just viewing it, from a standpoint of viewing it, it didn't look very innovative. It looked very derivative, and that's a bit of a shame considering what Ghost of Tsushima could be. But this is all early impression shit. It might be incredible when it comes out. I mean, I'm still going to play it. That game speaks to me entirely. I definitely want to get my hands on that and see what it's going to look like. I'm sure the final finished product will be immense. I mean, Sucker Punch and their gameplay with Infamous was unreal. So I'm confident. I'm quietly confident, but not impressed from the gameplay side of things with that trailer. I got a little bit bored towards the end when they were having the duel. So after they showed off Ghost of Tsushima, they showed off a game called Control. It's being made by Remedy Entertainment, the guys who made Alan Wake and Quantum Break. That rhymes. Huh. Yeah, Alan Wake and Quantum Break. They also made Max Payne. And it's a really weird-ass game. I don't really know what it's about. There seemed to be some time control stuff in there. Maybe tying in with Quantum Break in some kind of way. Whatever it was, it looked like whoever came up with the concept was absolutely tripping balls when they did, because it looks absolutely mental and made my head hurt a little bit. It was a very short trailer, though, and they didn't go into the gameplay or the details of it that much. A theme that was something... a theme that kind of permeated this conference. They They didn't have anybody on stage to explain the game. They didn't have anybody coming out in between the trailers to introduce them. It was just trailer, 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 trailer. Something which I think does work well for E3 conferences. You have to fish for the details later on, which is a little bit of a downside if you're a bit of a nerd about it like me. But you can get away with it. The hype levels are maintained then, which is good. And that was a good thing about this conference is this press briefing is that Sony managed to maintain that hype level throughout, showing the games without any gaps or anybody coming on stage to give sort of like intermittent details about, I don't know, like with Microsoft with Forza Horizon 4, how you had that guy come on stage talking about the weather. I'm like, that is just definitely not needed, and I think Sony understand that. And all the fans there want to see, and all the fans at home want to see, really, is the action and the gameplay. They did that with Control. They got through that pretty swiftly, and they moved on to Resident Evil 2. They're re-releasing Resident Evil 2. It looks like a full-on remaster, a full-on overhaul of the game. Everything looks modern quality. There's a modern quality about it visually. How it plays, don't know. It's just a cinematic opening kind of thing to it. From the perspective of a rat that got crushed and his head came off, which was beautiful. Beautiful to see. Really beautiful to see. Looks like it's going to be fan service, really, for Resident Evil. I'm not really a Resident Evil fan. As you know, from watching the channel, I am an absolute pussy when it comes to horror games. But, you know, this is a good thing for Sony, a good thing for them to show. It's, again, fan service, appeasing the fans, giving them what they want with Resident Evil 2, this kind of HD remaster. So, good, top marks there, Sony. Top marks. So after we saw a man biting off another man's neck in Resident Evil 2, they moved on to something called Trover Saves the Universe, and it was instantly recognisable as a Rick and Morty kind of property. Justin Roiland is the guy creating this game. It is being made by a studio, I'm assuming funded and in part established by Justin Roiland, called Squanch Games, like an amazing little reference to Squanchy, the character in Rick and Morty. Whatever it is going to be, I don't know. There was a Bathtub Guy, voiced by Roiland, obviously. Bathtub Guy was ridiculous. It seems to be an action-adventure platformer. It was a very short, like 1 minute long trailer. It's coming to PS4 and PlayStation VR. And the Rick and Morty guys have already worked with VR, I think. They've been working with Alchemy Labs to make that virtual reality game. So, yeah, this makes sense for them to make a VR game. I'm 100% down for this. It's great to see Rick and Morty and the people behind Rick and Morty expanding their reach into other mediums that they are interested in. Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland are gamers, and they can now create games with the weirdness and absolute craziness that just comes out of their brain. It seems Trover Saves the Universe is going to be that kind of madness. It had a very Rick and Morty feel about it, a very Rick and Morty kind of weird dimension thing going on. But again, short trailer, can't really take away a lot from it, apart from that it's going to be fucking hilarious, because in that 1 minute bit, that was hilarious. Hopefully the rest of it will be. And after that wonderful, wonderful segment, we moved on to fucking Kingdom Hearts 3. Again, like, you cannot get rid of Kingdom Hearts 3 at E3 this year. It seems to be in every goddamn briefing. It's getting fucking tedious now. It's been in, I'm sure it was in Ubisoft. I think it was in Ubisoft. Was it in Ubisoft? No, it was in Square. God, Square Enix were terrible. It was in Square's, it was in Xbox, it's now in PlayStation's media briefing. It's the same thing that we saw last time, the same weird trailer, the same like halfway through bit where there's no sound effects and it's just dialogue. The only different thing we saw this time around was that the Pirates of the Caribbean are in it, and great, good one. I don't care. I really don't care. I would have been interested in Kingdom Hearts 3 if it hadn't been so fucking saturated. I mean, right now I'm feeling like I don't want to touch this game at all because I'm just sick of fucking seeing it. I'm bored of it. I'm actually bored of Kingdom Hearts 3 right now, and all the hype around it and all the fanfare around a game whose development team and whose publisher can't be asked to put the sound effects in a fucking trailer. It's weird. It doesn't make sense. I'm over it. I'm genuinely over it. I don't care. Kingdom Hearts, don't care. Thankfully, they moved on from that with something that was very, 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 very interesting. Death Stranding from Hideo Kojima and Kojima Productions. A very long showcase of the game. Something that we kind of needed because we needed to see more of this game and what it was going to be about. It was a combination of cinematic stuff and more gameplay stuff. You play as Norman Reedus. Norman Reedus is the character in it. You play as him as a character called Sam, I think. Basically, you're a delivery guy by the looks of it, delivering, I don't know what. It's basically the sci-fi horror Deliveroo. All the gameplay was Norman Reedus just walking through different landscapes with something on his back, looking like he was about to make a drop, talking about deliveries, talking about him being able to partially sense something in the world, partially see something in the world, some sort of creepy thing. I don't know what exactly. It does look creepy as fuck, but still, after this long kind of showcase, you still kind of don't know what it's about. There's no real indication of the story, of what the weird, creepy, invisible creatures that are trying to get Norman Reedus are, who the characters are, what he's actually delivering, why they needed to show a baby inside a womb at the opening of the trailer, why he was carrying a baby in a weird little box. It's like what's going on? What the hell is going on with Death Stranding? Nobody knows. The one thing I do know is that I would love to have some of the drugs that Hideo Kojima is on, because that man is just off his fucking tits most of the time. He's got to be coming up with absolute madness like this. Dude is high as fuck. Either way, I'm very intrigued with this game. I think what this trailer and this showing of the gameplay and the more cinematic stuff has done this time is just get people more interested in whatever it's going to be. It's just building up that mystery, and I think they've done a good job of not revealing too much and just revealing little tidbits and making it more of a mystery that the public and the gamer and the fans are going to want to kind of unfold. Because a lot of the time with video games, you get too much information, and then when it comes to playing it, you've already got a lot of the information, a lot of the things are spoiled, and you don't know what is going, and you already know what is going on. With this, it might be taking kind of a different turn, where you actually have no clue what's going on when you get to the game, despite having quite a lot of information about it. Whether or not that's intentional, or whether or not that's is because the game and the story is extremely convoluted, well, that can only be told by time. We've got to wait and see when the game comes out, if it comes out this generation, what that will look like. Either way, I'm down for it. I love it. I want it now. I want it in my life. Please, Kojima, take your time. I'm not even going to ask you to hurry up. Take your time. Make this amazing. We all know you can. So after that weirdness and that wonderfulness, they did a little bit of a teaser trailer, more than anything, for Nioh 2. Yeah, basically they're just announcing that game. I didn't really play the first one. I played a little bit of the open beta. I enjoyed it. It seemed like Dark Souls, Bloodborne type affair, but a little bit more accessible. But I didn't play any further than the beta, so it might be just as tough and just as painful. But yeah, Nioh 2, great. Makes sense. That was a big hit, kind of a cult hit more than anything, a bit of a niche hit. Tapped into the Bloodborne, Dark Souls fan base, I think. So Nioh 2 makes sense. I believe the first game sold well, so this one is probably going to be just as well received. And finally, closing out the show, we had Spider-Man from Insomniac. Yes, the Spider-Man PS4 game, the exclusive Spider-Man PS4 game. We had an extended gameplay trailer for that game. It showed Spider-Man swinging into a prison being broken, where all the inmates were being broken out by Electro, Shocker Man. I don't know if Shocker and Electro are the same person, or I don't know. It was Electro or Shocker. I think it was Electro. Everybody's saying Electro. I thought it was Shocker, but is Shocker Spider-Man? I don't know. I call myself a Spider-Man fan as well. What a fucking idiot. Anyway, yeah, you saw Spider-Man swinging around the prison, trying to round up the inmates, beating up the inmates. Combat looks cool. There's a lot of different things you can do, a lot of different gadgets you can use. Again, more of the environmental stuff was shown, how you can use the environment in your attacks. The trailer also revealed a little bit more of the villains that are going to be in the game. So we've already seen Mr. Negative in last year's trailer. They showed Electro, who's the big main bad guy in this one. And they also showed off Rhino, Scorpion, and Vulture. Yeah, that's 5. 5 of what people are presuming to be the Sinister Six. There's got to be a 6th enemy dotted around somewhere, because at the end of the trailer, just as Spider-Man is getting the living shit beaten out of him by all of these main villains, the camera cuts to him going, oh, and he looks like he recognizes someone, whoever that will be. We don't know. Is it a hero? Is it a villain? If it's a villain, it makes that the Sinister Six, the leader of the Sinister Six, maybe. most likely going to be Doc Octopus, because that, from a lot of the Sinister Six standpoints, Doc Octopus is in the Sinister Six grouping of like all these various villains from the different Spider-Man stories, and he's always kind of the leader. That would make sense. If it's, I can't really put my finger on who else it would be. I think not having Doc Ock in this game would be silly. If it's a hero, then maybe Miles Morales, because Miles Morales was revealed in last year's trailer. Anybody else from that universe, that might make sense. Maybe Black Cat, or even like Spider-Gwen. I don't know if Gwen's a thing in this game. Who knows? It would be interesting to see. Maybe even kind of the Spider-Man multiple universe dimension things. What if they're tying in with that animation, the animated film that they're bringing out later this year? That would be cool as well. But yeah, as for the gameplay itself, it looks fucking incredible. Web slinging looks like it is coming along a treat. It looks so fluid, so intuitive, even in an area where there were like a collection of objects that were quite sparse and quite spread apart and difficult to kind of aim to. It didn't seem like it would be an issue swinging around that, because it was kind of a water-locked island, and there was like minimal towers for Spidey to like swing between, but it seemed to be working. The gameplay looks very, very, very cool. There's a little bit of a battle with Electro, and you could see how it's sweeping through the level, sweeping through the stage, big set pieces. Looks incredible. Big fan of what they showed this year. I'm also a big fan of the kind of art style they're sticking toward in this one. It was more of a fantastical art style, a more comic booky, cartoony style. More the Spider-Man animated series of artistry, especially with the villains and the way they look. I mean, Scorpion and Rhino look fucking ridiculous. They look as ridiculous as they did years ago when I first came across these characters, and that's what I like about it. They haven't taken the kind of realistic step that the Marvel films have taken towards these villains, with like Vulture and stuff. Like Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming was kind of just like a bit weird. It took a little bit away from that character, because the villains in Spider-Man have always been a bit garish and a bit weird, and I'm happy that they seem to be taking that art direction with those characters. Big fan of that. I mean, this was a good way to close out the show. Kind of. I mean, I think Sony needed a one more thing type of deal after this. Maybe the Rocksteady game that's coming out, that's in development, wherever that's going to come from. It's probably not going to come anywhere now. So all the briefings are done, which is a shame. So there's a Rocksteady game in development, and tacking it onto the end of this conference. It would have been nice, but no, it's obviously not the case. Yeah, it just ended a little bit abruptly. Even though the Spider-Man trailer was decent and it was good to see that gameplay, it was a little bit abrupt. I just think it needed to go off with a little bit of a bang, and it didn't end with a bang. It just kind of fizzled away to the post-show stuff. And to be honest, when they panned into the post-show stuff, it looked like a cutscene for something, the way that the camera moved, but it wasn't. It was just more people who you don't know, who you don't care about, talking about some sort of fucking nonsense that isn't of any real interest. You just wanted that one more thing, like Sony and PlayStation needed that one more thing at the end of this conference. So yeah, my final thoughts on this conference. I liked that it was short and sweet, and they didn't have, like I mentioned earlier, they didn't have the people in between the trailers coming in trying to explain something to you that you don't really care about. I thought it was a bit weird that they only had exclusives. I think the only one that wasn't an exclusive was Kingdom Hearts 3. Yeah, Kingdom Hearts 3. And what else did they show? Resident Evil 2. I don't know if that's going to be an exclusive or not. Everything else, though, apart from Black Ops, which wasn't really shown as part of the show, everything else was just exclusives. There were no third-party stuff, no indies, no real touching on VR. And I think I think, as I alluded to earlier, that's Sony and PlayStation becoming a little bit cocky, a little bit cocksure of themselves, thinking that they don't need to show what third-party stuff is coming to their system, because they've got a lot of first-party stuff. And it's kind of the opposite to what Xbox did a few days ago, where Xbox lent heavy on the third-party stuff, explaining how Xbox is the perfect place to play, the best place to play, or whatever they said. Sony, on the other hand, is just kind of like, it's kind of self-centered, inward-looking, sort of, here's all these amazing-looking games, don't get me wrong, but they're all ours, and they're all, this is why you need a PlayStation, and that's a good thing. But I think what you need to do is you need to have a balance. You need to have here's the exclusives, but also here's the third parties that look incredible. What you really needed was a melding of Xbox's conference with all the brilliant third party stuff like Devil May Cry, blended with Sony's Sony's push for exclusives. I think that would have made for a perfect briefing. That would have made for a perfect reasoning to buy a console. Because right now, even though it's probably not the case, it feels like Sony is becoming like kind of 2008 Sony, where it was so confident going into the PS3 after the PS2 that it ultimately fucked up. And seeing as we're coming to the end of this generation now, the risk is that that they do this with the PS5 or whatever the next generation thing is going to be. The PS4 ends on such a fucking high and absolutely swamping the competition that they will be so cocky going into PS5 that they won't market it correctly, they won't price it correctly, they'll only have a few games on it, they won't have the thing that they had at the beginning of the PS4 life cycle where they pledged a dedication to third-party things and indie developers. And that would drive people towards Xbox. I mean, already there's like a leaning toward Xbox. Even for myself, there's a leaning toward third-party stuff on Xbox because they made a very compelling case as to why you should play third-party stuff on their system. Sony didn't. And yeah, they've got the great games, but you can't just put all your chips on the exclusives without building good partnerships with the third-party studios. I think completely ignoring them at E3 at their biggest, the biggest gaming show of the year easily is a risky move. It's one that they've done for a few years on the trot now. Whatever will happen in the coming months and the coming years with PlayStation, who knows? The only thing we do know is that they've got great games coming, and I think that's all they're focusing on right now. Something that may be their downfall if they're not careful. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I'll leave it at that. I think that's enough of me talking to you about this conference. Very good. Where would I rank it so far? I don't know. I'm a PlayStation fan, so I'm biased. I don't want to put it above Xbox because of the third-party thing. I think it's definitely a second. It's better than Bethesda. The games were good. The games were good though. The games were better on PS4 that they showed compared to Xbox. But Xbox had a more complete package. Had a more rounded look at the industry. So I think Xbox may be just edging it. I might need to sit on that a little while. But who knows? Nintendo have still got theirs to come later on today. So let's be honest, that has a very, very strong chance of taking it for me. It won it last year for me. So who knows? Yeah, so thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy the video, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it with your friends. I have got more E3 content coming all week, a video every day, reacting and recapping the conferences, the press briefings, whatever. I've got Ubisoft, Nintendo, and Bethesda to get through yet. I've recorded Bethesda, I need to record Ubisoft, and then I will react to Nintendo when it happens tonight. So please, 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 please do hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of that content. And until next time, my friends...